When Fallout 4 came out initially, I knew right off the bat that something was missing. In a game about picking up life out of a wasteland left after total atomic annihilation, maybe there should be a little hardscrabble. A survival mode always seemed like the missing piece to the Fallout puzzle. It's also something that community has always wanted. Among the first mods to pop up for every Bethesda release since Oblivion was a realistic needs or camping mod that made eating and drinking the already copious foods in Vardenfell not just a substandard potion, but a necessity. Now, finally, Bethesda has released an official survival mode for Fallout 4, and after a few hours of playing it, I can say definitively, this is the best way to play Fallout 4. That is within some caveats, of course. Let's go over every area of the game generally that is affected here, and see if I can't explain why I think this mode is the superior way to play the game. Hunger, thirst, and sleep will persistently dog you while playing survival. Being at all low on any of these will start to cause stat debuffs and a decrease to your total AP. These aren't ruthless stat losses at first, typically 1 point off a single stat until you get to red level hunger or thirst, and then you're gonna start seeing half of your endurance or your AP bar disappear. Sleep is fairly easy to obtain and doesn't penalize you particularly badly until you get about 12 to 16 hours without it. Food and water needs are also fairly easily met. They aren't scarce in the wasteland, just not pure. Cooking is going to become a more regular part of your routine, as it is the best way to access radiation-free food. Settlement purifiers can grant you as much water as you'll need, so provisions boil down to less obtaining them than carrying them around. Even though the practical upshot isn't incredibly severe, and on occasion feels like busy work to obtain the food and water needed every day, I really like this. It makes me feel less like an immortal demigod, roaming the wastes without eating, drinking, sleeping, defecating, breathing, just a plastic man in a melted world. Food and drink are also excellent ways of refilling your health after combat, since the chemical cocktails readily available have some new side effects. Stim packs and Radaway parch and fatigue you, respectively. They are the lightest healing items, so they're good to have around, and when you get to the higher level stim pack perks, they are faster than just downing a barrel of crab cakes, but the new effects ensure that you won't take them too much. Radaway also increases your chance of infection and disease. Disease is probably my least favorite change, mostly because of how it's balanced. You are always at risk for contracting a variety of maladies. The effect for most of the common ones are pretty tame, less AP, needing more sleep, more water and food, etc. 1 or 2 of these won't hobble you, but 3 or more can get quite annoying. There are drugs you can take to decrease your chances of infection, and certain activities, like popping boxes of Radaway, make you more infectable. The way this is handled makes me feel like I'm hounded by minor catastrophe at every turn, and like I constantly have to stick an herbal enema up my ass to keep from grinding to a halt from the green, red, and black boogie woogies crammed into my bloodstream. You can cure all infections in one swoop with a single dose of antibiotics, which are, of course, a rare and expensive commodity, which you'll want to look out for while trading with the random wastelander. So, if there was any effect that I would want toned down, it would be diseases. Hell, even shoehorn in a perk to make them less common, or make Leadbelly count for diseases too. Anything to get rid of fatigue, parasites, fatigue, insomnia, parasites, fatigue, parasites, fatigue. Now that we've got the slightly annoying busy work adding changes out of the way, here's where survival mode gets interesting. The changes to travel, damage, and healing have created this devilishly evil-minded triforce of evil. One thing that makes it both evil and interesting is this. You can only save in a bed. No quick saving, no save states, no nothing. Keep that in mind as we go forward, because not being able to save when you want to creates the real challenge and thrill of this mode. Now, fast travel has been entirely disabled. If you want to get somewhere, you gotta walk. Typically, you start in your home base, run to wherever you're going, probably get sidetracked along the way, this is a Bethesda Fallout after all, and haul all your loot back. With fast travel in play, in vanilla mode, stashing all the loot from a dungeon at the dungeon entrance, and then fast traveling back and forth to your base to clear it, or just fast traveling back to base whenever you top out, is second nature. You can't do that anymore, but you still want to get the most out of your victories. The answer is scrapping most equipment and junk as fast as possible in the field. A pipe pistol on its own is worth 20 caps or so, probably less when you actually sell it, and weighs 2.3 weight units, which in a perfect world is a 8.7 cap to weight ratio. Actually, a pretty good number, especially to some of the other weighty items. If you scrap the pistols, they will get you 4 to 5 steel, which is a loss in total of about 15 caps. But now it's incredibly light, about 0.2 weight units each, which means you can keep going. If you scrap the loot in the field, you won't have to return to a settlement. You can keep going forward, and you can ride into Diamond City with 1,000 caps worth of steel and springs and wood, or use that for settlement construction, which is even more vital this time around. Before survival mode, getting those extra settlements was, at best, a good way to shop around and find your perfect wasteland home, and at worst, busy work from Preston as he shiftlessly strolls around Sanctuary or wherever, feeling good about himself, ordering a general around while he cools his heels. In survival, those extra settlements are assets to be cultivated. At the very least, any settlement can be used as a known bed location. You can waypoint them so you can save while you're on your journey. If you get enough, you'll always have a point you can go back to in order to stash your loot as well. Once you get a supply route set up, you'll be able to more easily create operating fronts. Since you can't just teleport to any area on the map, the movement of supplies, ammunition, and personnel is actually important now. Because remember, you can't save without a bed, and if you're hauling 15 tons of self-steel and stem bolts right out of Concord City with tangos on your ass, you're gonna want a backup plan. And why is that, you might ask? Raiders are easy sauce in Fallout 4. Well, simply put, combat is way deadlier and more fast-paced, with a great deal more consequence. First of all, healing is slow, like waiting for Half-Life 3 slow. Stimpaks, purified water, no matter what your preferred method of healing, it's gonna take about a minute to heal up all the way. In combat, you'll either have one or be dead in that time, so mid-combat healing is no longer a factor. In vanilla, if a Deathclaw could kill you in 3 hits, at the very least, you could stretch that to 5 hits, maybe more, depending on how well you can run backwards. In survival mode, you had better kill him before he even gets that first hit, because even that one could be your last. Everyone dies a lot faster. Early levels will have stray animals and low-level raiders one-shotting you, and you'll be doing the same to them. I always had a problem with Fallout 4's characters' brash indifference to hot lead. Now, cover, slow movement, and making every shot count have replaced pounding magazine after magazine into dudes wearing goth underpants. 1 or 2 body shots means you're in big trouble, and headshots take you out of the game. Companions at this and any stage are practically essential, since not only do they provide their own, now lethal damage, they are an excellent distraction. I did have a few issues with the AI being kinda slow, however. In vanilla Fallout, having Dogmeat take a few seconds to realize there's an enemy there and run to attack ain't that big of a deal. In survival mode, you will have already killed each other, leaving Dogmeat with that stupid look on his face like, huh? What? Combat? What's that? Oh shit, Raiders! Quick, Master, go get the... he's dead. As you find armor, weapons, and level, 1 or 2 38 rounds aren't gonna kill you outright, and enemies won't go down with a paper cut anymore either. The effect of hardcoreization gets less profound over time and level. Once you get to about level 20 or so, the game turns from Rainbow Six into Rainbow Six Vegas. You still gotta be careful, engage from range, slowly go around corners, the whole 9 yards, but it's not gonna be a random shot that ends you. It'll be the Raider who surprises you around a corner with a double barrel, and that super mutant with the missile launcher, or the Deathclaw coming at you with its death claws. And that's how it should be. I think it's safe to say this is really well balanced and feels amazing. The faster death times make combat way punchier and more dynamic, and the fact that you have maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes of game time riding on you being able to squeeze off accurate shots and not get hit. Like Ocelot says, reloading is where it's at, and I'm gonna say this is where Fallout 4's combat should have been from square one. Except for one thing. Fucking grenades, guided like a fucking laser-assisted goddamn anime fan to my fucking face like it was a goddamn Inuyasha marathon. Shit. It's the Molotovs that are the worst. All of the early raiders and super mutants have them. They can throw them absurd distances with unerring aim, and they kill you with one hit. Every time, even in the outside of the blast radius. Ironically, the Molotovs are more dangerous than the technically more advanced, higher damage and later level frag grenades. At least the frag grenades give you a second or two to run away. The Molotovs just explode and then leave you about 15 seconds to bash your keyboard against the wall before the loading is finished. And then you realize that you have to recreate the last 15 minutes from scratch, and heaven help you if you have anything heavy near your computer. If you even see them cock their little arms back, you gotta start running. Hell, better to stand in the middle of the goddamn street. At least then you have some running room and the fucking machine gun fire they're throwing at you won't kill you as fast. And don't get me even started on mini nukes. Although, with the mini nukes, I don't mind that those are a one-shot kill. I just mind that a bottle with diesel fuel with a rag stuffed in the top is just as equally dangerous as the deadliest weapon to ever destroy 2 whole cities, and which could annihilate all human life as we know it if only 10% of them were ever actually used. I know, it's the little things in life that'll get you, but Jesus! In regards to the mini nukes, I actually like that some things are a one-shot kill. Part of the reason I was smitten with the idea of a survival mode, aside from realism, was that I actually did want to have certain situations come up where I would look at it from afar and say, you know, I don't even want to mess with that right now, but you know what? I'm going to mark this spot on my map, and then I'm going to come back here with my own nuclear rocket launcher, and then we'll see who crawls out through the Fallout, bitch! And that's the thing. In vanilla Fallout, I never used my missile launchers or Fat Men. I never needed to. Stim packs were my weapons of mass destruction. Give me 40 stim packs, a single action revolver, and I could take on an army of armor-clad Deathclaws. My atomic super launchers just gathered dust on the shelf, and while that's great news for nuclear disarmament, I kind of wanted to use these outside of just lulzy novelty. In survival mode, the heavy weapons are tools again. There really is a need to be able to deal lots of damage before the other guy can. All of these individual changes have a grand scope of change in the game itself. You will play the game slower, more deliberately, and put more thought into every encounter. Any given raider group could be deadly, not only to you, but to your potentially 20 minutes of unsaved game time. On the other side of the coin, combat is no longer a slog, and weapons with low fire rates but high damage are far more useful. You will be far more likely to rely on performance-enhancing drugs, especially for the set-piece boss battles or the odd super-level robot in the middle of the wasteland. Combat is harder and riskier, but victory all the more sweet because of it. Because cots and workbenches are now worth their weight in lost time, you will become intimately familiar with your surroundings, and repeated treks with the Commonwealth will enhance this familiarity. Never really became familiar with the backwoods areas of Boston when playing the game through the first time, because fast travel made any meandering pointless. Now I actually know the wasteland. Even though they've been more adequately patched this time around, game-disrupting frame drops, crashes, or geometry errors are even more disastrous. That sinking feeling only gets worse once you realize you have 15 minutes of gameplay time riding on being able to squirm yourself loose from a poorly placed tree or jagged piece of metal. You will use every item to its fullest, from Tatos to atomics. Your power armor will be more carefully rationed as the cores weight 8 weights now, and running out of fuel mid-journey is a real possibility. It's also the best way to visit the wasteland, since the extra armor is now worth its weight in gold or bottle caps, so while you want to wear it, you're actually comfortably penalized from doing so. These kinds of decisions have to be thought through, and you have to weigh the consequences of any given action before you take it. Even actions as simple as, should I wear my power armor or not? I'm big enough to admit that my tastes are not everyone else's tastes. Survival mode makes the game a lot slower, and if you want to spend a lot of time in the wasteland, then go for it. If you don't have as much time in your life for video games, or you just kind of want to find the action, blow some stuff up, and go home, then this might not be the best for you. Survival mode also does not, at this time, play very well with Automatron, where you will suddenly get roaming bands of really powerful robots, occasionally with explosives that come out of nowhere. Like survival mode itself, this effect is more prominent at earlier levels. The dungeons that you'll have to play through also rarely have beds or sleeping bags in them, since you're fighting robots, I guess, and they don't need to sleep, so usually you'll have to play these now much harder areas in one go, and risk losing your progress while you're at it. On the plus side, your robot companions can soak up a whole lot more damage and carry a whole lot more loot than human ones. It's the kind of good-bad trade-off that I saw a lot of when playing survival mode, and despite the bad, I really think this is the way Fallout 4 should be played. This update has rejuvenated my interest in Fallout, and I've already spent at least 70 extra hours playing it, and the way it's going, it looks like it's time to give up and accept the reality of a good 100 more hours playing this fucking game. Reloading never felt so good.